Now time to have the player fire. So coming back over to our update method, because this is where we get all of our input, I'm going to see and use the space bar as our fire. So I have to say input, if input dot get key, and in this case I'm going to use the get key down, because if you remember, the get key down only happens once. When you first press a key on your keyboard or on your mouse down, it only happens that one time. You have to release the key to again call the get key down. Okay, so we used get key for our arrows because it would call as long as the key was being held down. In our case, we're using get key down to only call it once. And in my case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of separate the functionality, just kind of chunking up our program, using kind of a form of abstraction to make it simpler so that our update function is not full of congestion. And I'm basically just going to say call fire. And fire is going to be our own void method. So I can call that up here. And this now will reference this up here. Again, I will have some added functionality in here just so I don't kind of clutter up the update method. And that's usually what you'll see in a lot of people programming, especially in Unity or pre-made scripts that Unity has built in. You'll see they have the function, the method update that calls all these other methods to handle more complicated interaction for us. So what is this fire thing going to do? Well, it's going to spawn an object, and eventually we'll get that object to move. So what is our spawning function? Well, it's called instantiate. So we need to call instantiate and put some parentheses. And instantiate requires 3 arguments to be sent to it inside of these parentheses. What are those arguments? Well, the first one is going to be, what do you want to spawn? Well, in my case, I need a variable, and it's going to be of type GameObject, and I'll just call it bullet, which I will reference my bullet prefab to this bullet variable. And I will use this bullet variable as the thing I want to create. So I'm going to say instantiate the bullet. The second thing that the instantiate method needs is where to spawn the bullet or the prefab that we're creating at. Well, I'm going to transform it at my position, which is we're on the gunship, so my gunship's position. And the third and final thing is the rotation of the object. What rotation do we want? Well, I'm again going to use transform.rotation, and then put a semicolon. And that's it. That will spawn an object when we hit space. Save your script, come over here. Now if you come to your gunship script, now you'll see we have both our speed variable, but now we have this new bullet variable that's looking for a game object which none is attached. So just like we did with our UI text, we need to drag and connect our bullet. So I'm going to go to the prefab folder, find my bullet prefab, click and drag and connect it here. If that is not connected, you will be getting an error that says null reference down here, basically saying there is no bullet object attached because you must have skipped this step. So if I hit play, I can hit the space bar and notice these objects are getting spawned. And they all say bullet and they say clone, and that tells you that they are being instantiated. And so far, it's working. Okay, so bullets being spawned, it's kind of being spawned a little goofy, probably to the side of your ship or to the left of your ship. We're going to go ahead and fix all that. And that starts off by creating another new script for, of course, the bullet. So once you create this bullet, we're going to double click, open it up, and start to code our movement of it. So the bullet is going to be moving upward upon spawn, and it's going to be constantly moving up. So we're just going to simply do that in the update method. We're going to first create our speed variable again, And I'm calling this variable speed because that's really what it is. And I'm going to say transform with a lowercase. And this one's going up, so vector2.up. And I'm going to times it by that speed variable, and I'm going to times it by time.delta time. And that's it. Our bullet will move up just with this part of the script. So come over here. Now, and I spelled transform wrong. Come over to your script. Now your bullet here, this is where we can start to add things to it as well. So since this is a prefab, you could simply click down here to add component. What do we want to add? We want to add from our scripts the bullet. There's the speed of 10. I'm going to hit play. And when I launch one, the bullets are spawning. But they hit these things and they go kind of flying and they go all over the place. And notice when I'm hitting the space that it spawns, but it goes off angled to the left. Well, here's what's happening. The bullet has a collider. The gunship has a collider. So when this bullet is spawned right on top and it collides with another object, it's going to angle and kind of get pushed off to the side. So this collision is happening when we really don't want it to happen. So to fix that, instead of collision, what we're going to do is on the bullet, we're going to go to the box collider and check this is trigger option. And what it does is it makes that collider kind of invisible, or collision not be detected, basically. Collision still happens and we can detect it, but just in a different way. And we'll do that here in a second. So now when I hit space, it works. It gets spawned right on top of the ship, and it goes up. Now notice as you have these bullets here, they don't go away. They're gone, long gone in the scene, but they don't go away. So that's kind of a problem. We don't really need a lot of bullets, because think about it, as you're playing your game and you spawn all these bullets, they never go away. So the first thing we're going to do instead is we're going to destroy them. And we're going to destroy them after 2 seconds. Now, how do we do that? Well, we've done this before, and we did it with Pong and Breakout. That after a certain amount of seconds, we kind of wait. And then we start the ball up. That's what we did with Pong when we started the scene. Wait 2 seconds, start moving the ball. And that's what we're going to do here. Well, we need to use that same command, which is invoke. And we need to invoke some method that we put in double quotes. Well, the name of our method, I'm just going to call it delete. And then we need a time after that. So I'm going to say after 2 seconds, invoke this method called delete, which is something we have to create, of course, like I said. And inside here, what are we going to do? Well, we're going to destroy ourselves as the bullet. And that means saying destroy myself, the game object. So after 2 seconds, call this command. It will destroy myself. Save it, come back over here, let it recompile, hit play. Now, as soon as I hit this, my list of bullets should start to go away because they delete. 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi, and it's off the scene. So that 2 seconds works. Sometimes if your scene is larger, you might need to set this invoke command to 3 or 4 or whatever that works for your scene. All right, time to figure out our collision. So when we hit the alien, when we hit these cube bases, we want either of these to delete. And for that matter, the bullet to delete as well. So as I talked about before with this bullet, we use the isTrigger command on the box collider. And that makes it so that we no longer can use the onCollisionEnter method. And instead, we have to use the trigger method. And I've talked about this before in class, but we have to use onTriggerEnter 2D. And we get a variable of type collider2D. And I'm going to call it obj like we did with the onCollisionEnter. And this works very similar to the collision, Whereas when we hover over something or trigger something, because that green collider is now kind of a trigger zone, this script will be called. So we're basically going to be checking tags again. So in this case, obj.tag, and I'm going to see if I hit an alien. If I hit an alien, what am I going to do? Well, I'm going to delete myself. I'm also going to destroy obj as a game object. Now, in the future as well, what do we do when we hit the alien? Well, we add to score, right? So I'm going to add a comment for now and just leave that there. And I also need to check one more tag. So if I hit the base, or one of the base cubes, I need to again delete myself and destroy obj.game object. Now, you might be thinking, okay, I have this right here. It's the same as this. So why don't I have if you hit the tag alien and then use an OR command and say, or if the tag that you hit is base, and I could combine them all into one if statement, just delete. Well, the deciding factor is this little comment line right here. When I hit the alien, I have to add to score. If it's not an alien, we're not going to add to score. So now that we've got these tags that we want to check, we need to put those into Unity and tag our objects. So remember your spelling, alien. I use alien with a capital A. I use base with a capital B. And when I come over here, now the big thing that people might get confused on is to think, okay, well, I have my enemy wave right here. I'm just going to tag this with my alien tag. Well, we're not really going to tag the parent object. We actually need to tag these individual objects because they are still individual and we want them to act like that as individual aliens. So come into here. We need to add our tag. Hit plus, alien, base. Come over to here, and what I can do is open up Alien Wave and shift select alien, and then tag them as such. Hit play real quick, and I'm just going to double check, see, as I shoot, I'm deleting the alien. So I know that tag works. And then what I'm going to do is I have all these shields. Now, since I already have made 4 separate shields, it might have been smarter to probably make a prefab out of the shield, right? And then I would only have to change it over here in the prefabs folder. But in my case, I could do another way. All my objects are called base, and some of them have a number. Well, up here, there's a search bar. So if I know that the object I'm searching for is base, I can search that. It kind of goes gray here because it's finding all my objects with base, and I'm just going to shift select all these bases objects and click on base. Clear out my search with hitting that little tiny X there, and now when I hit play to try and I shoot my base is starting, all my cubes will get destroyed, which is basically how Space Invaders is acting.